offline. So we'll just capture this session. I'll send it on to you both after we're finished today as well. But really want to talk about kind of, you guys will appreciate this, leading organizations, leading teams, and the importance of kind of delegation in helping you to elevate your leadership position. Because if you're anything like me, you will find yourself having been pretty good at most things when it comes to sales and, you know, developing your teams and developing the business and growing. And that's it's a good thing on one hand, because you can kind of turn your hand to most of the tasks that need doing, but it can be a bit of a trap on the other, where you might find yourself jumping in and doing tasks, doing things that you think, actually, I perhaps shouldn't always be doing this stuff. I should be delegating it to members of the team. And certainly I had that experience a number of times in my career. And then when I set my business up about 5 years ago, through necessity, I was doing a lot of that work. But you can kind of get stuck doing things that you think, actually, unless I take time to reflect on where I am, what the higher value activities are, and then starting to be more proactive around delegating the, you know, lower value tasks, you find yourself a bit swamped in work. I don't know if you've had that experience yourselves, but there are a number of reasons why people do that, and I, you know, hold my hand up and say I'm one of them. And it is an ongoing area of focus and consistent development to improve delegating. And there's lots of reasons why people don't do it. I've got a couple of specific points in my career where I remember I took on a sales management position, and within 6 months was pretty kind of chock-a-block. My diary was rammed. I could never fit anything in. And largely it was due to the fact that I wasn't effectively delegating. And it wasn't until I had a number of conversations with, you know, my then manager and a mentor I was working with, who just started to help me take a step back. And I ended up doing this with my team a lot of the time, was kind of take a step back and go, right, let's just have a look at your diary. Let's look back over the last, you know, couple of weeks, a month, and let's just take some time working through all of the different activities. What are you working on? And which of those are crucial for you to be doing? And which of those are you doing because you just haven't figured out how to delegate them? And it was surprising. It was just that process helped me to probably free up, you know, 25 to 30% of my time. And there were things that I was doing out of habit rather than out of necessity. And that kind of really helped me to kind of take that next step, create more space for the strategic conversations I needed to have, and that then unlocked more growth opportunities. So I've had a lot of experience of this. That's one experience, I've had more than the one, but that's one that really sticks with me. It was interesting. I was asked that question through that process. Why aren't you delegating? And partly it's an awareness gap, but partly for me it was also not trusting people to do the things that I was doing as well as I could do them, even though they didn't need to be done necessarily at that level. So it was that shift in delegating. So I'd be interested, James, Nigel, your experience so far of kind of what you're working on with your teams and delegating. How do you find it?
Yeah, I think it's. Sorry, I've just realised my camera's not even on. There you go. You get.
Oh, that's it. Thanks, James.
Lovely sun in Glasgow. So I think, yeah, so obviously, yeah, I think everyone does it, particularly so my roles have predominantly been starting off as what we call it, like an IC, individual contributor, building up opportunity and then growing out the team. So it's quite a tricky phase where you're moving from doing everything yourself because there's no one else to do it, to then growing up a team who can then pick things up for you. So I've always... I fell into the same trap as loads of people, right? Where you do end up doing too much. You end up taking on too much responsibility, carrying on things that could be delegated. So I started to check in with the leadership team on what's my remit, what are my goals and what are my focuses, and anything that doesn't fall into that, anything that isn't achieving the goals of myself or the company, that's the stuff that needs to be delegated out, right? What I also started doing was having a lot more communication with my team. So I started to realize that there are things people want me to delegate to them. They'd love to take on a little bit more, and they feel more trusted and more part of the sort of the team community. But yeah, also, you know, there was an element of I was doing quite a lot, and there were some of the teams that I've managed. There were some people who didn't have a lot to do. I was doing far too much, managing opportunities to a certain level and then handing it over, and it wasn't great for either side, to be honest. So yeah, speaking to my management, pushing everything out to the team is how I kind of manage that. But I think you do just fall into the trap naturally, to be honest.
Yeah, of just holding on to more than you need to for longer than you need to.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah. So I think it's really important to keep an eye on what you're doing, but also check in with the senior leadership team. You know, what is it I'm here to do? What is it I need to achieve here?
Yeah.
What are my goals? And things that fall outside of that, that's what you can look at to push out to the rest of the team.
Yeah, and you learned an interesting and important lesson as well, James, and that is that actually, as you start to delegate tasks, people want the additional responsibility, because for too long you can kind of think, oh well, it's not fair to pass that on, when actually it's not fair to not give people the opportunity to try and do something new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all about development, right? If you've got a team you've hired well, you should be able to trust them, and they want to extend their careers as much as you do, right? So allowing them to do that is a positive thing.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Thanks, James. How about you, Nigel? What's been your experience?
Well, in the last 5 years, I mean, I joined Rights, as you're fully aware. My remit was I didn't have to do any reporting, paperwork, anything. Was to get this team up and running and get it done. My job really is I'm front the company, even though it's quite a big organisation in our industry. So I spend most of my time with customers on the road, and I delegate everything that comes in from the office to me. I've got the team, and everybody wants to help. We're a very motivated company, to be fair. The management is a family-run business. I think we've got 400 employees, and they treat you like a family. We're very, very lucky. And, they want me just to do that part of the job, face the company. So it's, to me, I delegate probably 95% of any paperwork I have to do, or anything they want from the company. If I ask for stuff, I get it back within 2 or 3 days. It's perfect. But I understand by previous roles, I've been in the same position. You take everything on, you think, you're indestructible, and you actually fall down so many times because you haven't helped or haven't asked anyone who's got the skill set to probably help you. You think you're in charge and you want to do it, and it doesn't work well.
No. And there's also, when you complete a task, there's that sense of satisfaction and reward when you finish something, isn't there? Like that dopamine hit. And that, again, that's a bit it can kind of trap you into the false sense of security that doing stuff is a good use of your time, when actually it's the important things. I like what you said, Nigel. You're clear on your position within the organization is, fronting in front of customers, being present, and actually delegate everything else that isn't that.
Yeah. And Karen Suter, who's one of our directors, said to me at Christmas, she said, we just want you to speak to people. That's what you're good at. That's what we pay you for. You can't be any plainer than that, can you?
No. And whether that's speaking to your team or speaking to like larger customers, that's where the value is, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, because that's similar to James's experience, right? And it's about getting clear on where the highest level of your value is, and kind of staying in your lane.
It's contacts. In our industry, it's all about contacts. It's been able to pick the phone up and speak to the right person in any organisation. And with 40 years experience in dental, most of them, you've grown up with them. Even the ones that are retiring, the next band, you've still grown up with them. They've been at some point in your career.
You're strengthening those relationships. Very good. And so that's how you do it. What challenges do you face with it, in terms of whether it's delegating or getting people to do what you need them to do when you need them to do it?
Again, we're a very motivated company. You ask them, they do it. I mean, we're probably under-resourced in certain areas in the company, but that's why we're lean. If you look at our competitors, they've all got management going, all the way up. and decisions take, can take weeks. I can ring my boss, Ian Matheson, and just say to him, I need an answer, I need it now. And I'll have it in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
That's where, the pressure's taken off you if you can get decisions. Waiting for an answer can cause you more problems. But the delegation side, the team are brilliant. And we're all looked after, we're all paid extremely well for what we do. In the pandemic, we were all looked after. Everybody got full wages, even in South Africa, where we're number one, as a company. So, it's the right place to be at the right time. There's not many employees say that about a company, but it really is.
Yeah. That's good. Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Nigel. That's really good to hear as well. James, how about you? Challenges with delegation? Are there things that you've experienced or are experiencing that you find challenging?
Yeah, well, I guess the key things for me would be fear and time. So fear from both sides, as you said, fear of delegating and not having it done as well as you could do it, but also fear from the person you're delegating to if they haven't done it before. And that's kind of where the time element comes in. So I've had it before where you're delegating something to someone who's just never done it before. So then you're really going to have to spend additional time training them in how to do what you're delegating, whereas you could do it a lot quicker yourself, right? But I guess the upside of that is A, you're upskilling your staff, and B, next time you won't have to train them again, and it will be a lot faster resolution for you. So yeah, that'll be the key challenges. I guess the upside of what I just said. Yes, it's future proofing your business and upskilling your staff.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Fear and time. I like that. It's very succinct. Yeah, because it's a short-term upfront investment of time for a mid to long-term release of time, right? It's almost a trade-off. Are you prepared to invest it up front so that you get the return later?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I guess that sort of builds the culture element as well, as when you're upskilling and you're showing that you're putting effort into building out your team and upskilling your team. That helps with the culture side as well, and obviously helps you develop as a leader rather than a manager.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, very good. Well, and I've got a couple of things that might be useful, which I'll kind of share with you. I'll start with, I think Nigel might have seen this before, but I'll introduce it because it's broader than just the delegating topic, but I find a lot of people in leadership roles can kind of relate to this as a cycle. So there's this leadership kind of coaching cycle that we use in the business called the coach principles, and it just kind of takes you step by step through how to kind of engage, lead, and motivate a team, and particularly if you think about doing it in a way that's coaching led, and that's very kind of aligned with delegating, because we want to increase people's sense of responsibility, increase their kind of awareness around their development and the other opportunities for them to kind of perform at a higher level. And I'll walk you through the steps because if you you'll be doing some of them, but perhaps not all of them in this order. But at the heart of the model, we talk about trust and relationships, so making sure that trust is high between you and your teams. And when I say trust, I don't just mean they like us, we get on. I also mean that actually we've got this relationship where we can push and challenge people and they still feel confident and safe, and it doesn't damage the relationship. That for me is where trust really plays a part, where you can ask a lot of people and it still strengthens your relationships. That takes quite a bit of work, as you will both know, being in leadership positions. And then we talk about having a plan, which I won't go into in detail, but making sure you're clear on your priorities, your team are clear on theirs. Then we talk about contracting, and contracting something that I've done inconsistently throughout my leadership career, but something I've done more consistently since I learned the principle in executive coaching. And it's effectively having a strategic conversation with every member of your team about how you'll work together, what your standards are, the principles that you'll engage with each other on, and just having that kind of taking that time to step back from the day to day and say, actually, let's talk about how we're going to work together and what commitments we make to each other. And sometimes that might be, a commitment to have a difficult conversation when you need to. and even though you won't necessarily be something that you'll enjoy, you'll still commit to each other that you'll do that anyway. So maybe to give feedback, maybe to create some space for development. All of those things that are strategic parts of the conversation can be really useful as a foundation for kind of coaching. And then the second, the O, so that's the C. The O is objectives and goals, making sure that you and the team are clear on what's expected of them. What does a high performer in your organization look like? And take some time to map that out. This is what it looks like, and agree it together so that they're really clear and you're really clear. And then, of course, action and observation. So getting some time to actually see your team do what they do, whether that's with customers, whether that's delivering on projects or assignments, but having some time to just kind of observe them. They do the action, you do the observation. And because from there, you create opportunities and gaps where you can coach them. And then coaching is what helps them to make that shift in focus, perspective, and performance. And lots of different ways to coach, as you both know, I'm sure. But there's multiple models. But coaching is really the kind of mechanism that we see is most effective for change and improvement in performance. And then once you coach them, then it's about kind of thinking bigger picture and saying, right, actually, in the future, where do you see yourself in the organization, or where do you see yourself, in your career, and how do you help someone to start to think bigger, create a development plan, and move and improve themselves through the organization. So I share that with you because delegation really sits here in the coaching piece. How do we coach people to be able to accept higher levels of responsibility and performance for delegating? And I won't go all PowerPoint on you, but there's some interesting information around delegating. So Gallup, you remember the company Gallup? They do a lot of polling. They're really business polls is their specialty now. But in a number of studies they've run, they've said that CEOs or senior leaders who excel in delegating generate 33% higher revenue for organizations. And the reason for that is because they've freed up their time to focus on the activities that deliver the highest returns. And then I love this. I don't know if you've read the book by Dan Sullivan, Who Not How. It's quite an interesting book, but it basically, it kind of starts to get you thinking about the question, instead of how should I do this, who should do this? So you kind of move to who, not how, as part of your principle for delegating. It's quite an interesting book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. And then there's this, I quite like this kind of, there's a delegation checklist, which I think is quite useful, which I'll just share with you. So on one hand, it's really about kind of thinking about the long term. So we talked about it earlier, short-term input and investment for long-term gain. So think long-term when you're delegating. And then as obvious as it sounds, knowing what to delegate and why. So what are those key tasks? To your point, James, check in with your key priorities, and to yours, Nigel, what is your role? What don't you or shouldn't you be doing, and why are you delegating it? And then there's this principle I learned years ago about delegating to the lowest level of competence. So delegating to absolutely the lowest level of either competence or the role in the organization. And that's one of the traps that I'd fallen into. Is I'd be delegating stuff, when I was managing a larger business, perhaps I'd delegate to my manager when actually I should be delegating to one of his team, or, a manager that worked for me. So really thinking about actually who is the person in the organization that would most benefit from learning this skill and kind of leveling up in terms of their performance, and then delegating to that lowest level of competence. And then something that I've kind of been guilty of a couple of times in my career, and that is remembering to delegate, not abdicate. So sometimes I've had experiences where I've kind of gone, right, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, I've identified the person I'm going to delegate it to, and then I brief them once and kind of assume they know how to do it. And that's not delegation, that's abdication. And all of a sudden you find that it's gone off track, or they haven't been able to deliver it, or they haven't quite got it right, but you also haven't got that visibility of it. So learning to delegate, not abdicate, is really important. We'll talk about a process in a moment that could be useful. And then, of course, thinking about different members of your teams, what are their strengths, what are their goals, and how do you delegate to help align with what they're trying to achieve and what they're good at, because that's where the sweet spot for performance and improvement is really kind of happening for you and for them. And then define the desired outcome. So I found that's useful to say, actually, what the reason we do this task is to get this result, not we do it like this. And what I found happens over time is that actually people start to find a better way to do things than I've been able to. And as long as you get the desired outcome, actually that's what's most important. And again, it's something I've had to learn the hard way, because I've kind of in the past said, do it like this, rather than this is what we're trying to achieve. And sometimes that could be the difference between, somebody actually performing at a higher level when you're delegating than even you can do it, right? And then there's something about the right resources and authority. So make sure that if people are doing a task, picking up a task, that not only do they have what they need to do to complete the task, but they've got authority. Sometimes they might need to make decisions, and you might need to say, actually, I trust you to make this decision on this. At this point, you will have to decide this way or that, and it's your call on it. So if you give people authority to do that and permission not to always get it right, that could be really valuable. And then support communication and review. So how often do you need to check in, or they need to check in with you? What does that look like? I have a kind of almost, it depends on the task, but I'll very close to delegating something big. If it's a big project, then I'll have almost like a daily 10-minute check-in. 10 minutes once a day. How are you getting on with it? Where are we progressing? What support do you need? And move on. And that could be really valuable. So agreeing that up front, and the review cycle can be really useful. And then, of course, recognizing progress. And progress can be failure and it can be success. So giving people just those kind of small wins, small recognition or appreciation, just to say, okay, yes, we haven't quite got this right, but actually it's progress. So progress should be kind of celebrated or recognized at the very least. And then appreciating it's a process, a bit like James's point earlier, thinking about the time piece. Delegation and task delegation is a process that people will go through in adopting it and improving it. And so once we appreciate that, actually it makes it easier for us and for the person that we're delegating to. And then finally, continually elevate the expectations for people so that delegation becomes a development tool. So you can continually elevate expectations of your teams, and they'll start to kind of ideally, come to you for tasks that you'll delegate, rather than you having to identify it yourself. And that's an interesting conversation I've had a few times with members of my team to say, I'd love it for you to look at the tasks you see me doing, the things that we're involved in together, and come to me with those suggestions around what you think you'd like to start to adopt and improve in terms of your key activities. So useful kind of list, the top 10 checklist, which I'll send to you afterwards. And then there's a process which I'll go through in a second, but I'm just going to pause the sharing for a moment and just get your feedback on that top 10. What were you thinking as I was going through that list?
Yeah, a lot of it was resonating. I think, it's really good. It's good to see the structure there, basically, because I think quite often when you go through the sort of delegation process yourself, you do it. And you might do it right sometimes and then get a few bits wrong other times. So I think it's good to have a checklist there so that you can, it's something to follow, isn't it? It's a process to follow with all your delegation, which I think is quite often forgotten. Delegation seems to be more necessity and not a process that you can follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's, conversations like this are a useful reminder, aren't they? Mm-hmm. When you kind of do what you do, and then you kind of stop and think, actually, there's some things here I should be really kind of reflecting on and trying to either change or move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm. You just assume everybody can do everything you ask them to do. And it's a lot of the time, probably they struggle and worry about what they're actually doing and deliver, never thought of it that way. Yeah.
Mm. And it's being open and receptive to that feedback, isn't it? So that people don't feel like they have to struggle. They can actually come to you and say, you know what, I am concerned about this, or it's not going how I thought it would. And then you can provide coaching on it.
If you know how to do it to start with yourself,
That is true. That is true. But that's even more important, to know how to coach, right?
Yeah.
Even more important.
Yeah. Right, I've got to go, Justin. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Nigel. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you.
Yeah.
Take care, and I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks, Nigel.
Are you at the BACD over the weekend or not?
Not this weekend, no.
No,
No.
okay. Yeah. Nice to meet you, James.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks, Nigel. See you later.
See you. Bye.
Take care. See you. James, we'll just I'll go through this final process piece with you, and then we'll kind of wrap up and decide where you want to go next, if that's okay.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah. So this, as well as those kind of top 10 things around the checklist, there's this process document that we use, because we talked about delegation being a process. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to use all of these steps, but I've found that if you're delegating a kind of significant project or a program or something big that's really important, actually these process steps are really useful as a guide to get you thinking about how you effectively delegate this with a member of your team. Mm-hmm. So you'll see it's quite a simple document. I'll send the document through as well. So define the task, project, or series of activities you're planning to delegate. So you just kind of capture them there. I've got an example next, which will put it into context. And then this is important. This is interesting. Why is it important to you or your business? And a big part of why we fill this out is also to convince ourselves that we're delegating the right task. So we should be delegating things that are important. Then we talked about successful outcome. So what's the successful outcome of this task, project, or series of activities? To describe the finished result, not necessarily what we're delegating, but what the outcome of the delegated task is. What are the indicators that this task is on track? Which is quite interesting, because it forces you to think about what those key, you might be 2 or 3 things. This means this is on track. What tools are needed to successfully complete this task? So it might be a piece of software, a platform. It might be it might be a table or a template or something that you've got, and just kind of helps you to think about, right, actually these are the things that are needed. What support will be given to ensure its success? When will you review progress to stay on track? And that might be frequency. How will you know this task has been successfully delegated? So that's an interesting one. It could be as simple as someone reciting it back to you or demonstrating it. And then what's the reward or recognition for successful completion? So that's quite a nice way to kind of get you thinking about this as a process. And the reward may not be something tangible. It might be some kind of congratulations or acknowledgement, but it's useful to think about it as part of the process. And then there's this navigator just talks through the kind of how to use the document. And then this is an example. So this is one from a client I work with. So lead generation program for sales training program they were running. Why is it important to you or your business to make an impact on more sales teams who can't access training and coaching and create ongoing revenue stream? What's the successful outcome? A regular cycle of lead generation, inbound inquiries, sales conversations, and conversions. Building world-class sales communities is the outcome. What are the potential pitfalls to avoid? Paying for ineffective ads needs to be a thorough plan that considers all media, not just PPC. What are the indicators that this task is on track? So engagement from customers, scorecards completed, lead inquiry forms, inbound traffic and inquiries. What tools are needed to be successful? Access to all social media accounts, CRM system, website and landing pages. What support will be given? Budget assigned, time, one-to-ones and mentoring conversations. When will you review? Weekly review to discuss progress and offer support. How do you know this task is successfully delegated? When marketer meets lead generation targets, is able to run campaigns independently. And then what's the reward? Celebratory dinner, rewarding vouchers and public recognition with a wider business team. So it's quite a nice just series of steps that and you can see it's quite simple to complete, but it does really get you to think more clearly and deeply about the tasks that you're looking to delegate.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting.
So I'll share those slides and those documents, that process with you as well, James.
Right.
And then you can utilize that. So that's kind of the content for today that I planned for today's session, James. I mean, I'll be interested to kind of get your thoughts on the session and what you're thinking you'll do.
Yeah. So I thought the session was really good to say. It's for me, it's any chance I get to join a discussion like this with other people, you learn something, right? So it's just a chance to even talking around things like delegation makes you think of it in a different way. Just use your own words out loud, change your perspective on how you handle that next, right? So I really enjoy these conversations, but also I've taken away a lot as well. I've never built a process into delegation ever, so that's something that I'll obviously start to build in. So yes, it's been really helpful.
Yeah, good, thanks. And there's it's an simple Excel document that's got that example in it and the blank. So I'll send you that as well, James, so you can actually just start using that straight away if you find it useful, or you can adjust it to to how you want it to kind of flow as well. So
perfect, great stuff.
Good. So final question, James, is what else is going on for you right now that might be useful to discuss? I mean, we've got kind of 10 minutes if you wanted, if there's something specific for your role that might be useful.
Yeah, so I'm actually in between roles right now. So which is why I've got more time to join these kind of calls, right?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
So yeah, there's nothing really. I'm just trying to, again, it's for, rather than watching Netflix or just looking at LinkedIn all day, it's joining these and having discussions. Helps to keep my mind active and
okay.
And I learn stuff at every call. So
yeah. So thanks so much for joining us, and wishing you all the best with delegation. I'll send through the resources after today's session, and I look forward to hearing from you and your feedback on it, James.
Yeah, great stuff. Good speaking to you.
All right, pleasure. Thanks, James.
Thanks, Justin.
See you. Bye.
Bye.